back home now, because during a presidential oversight visit to the Eastern Cape in April, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa highlighted the need for economic stimulation to turn the province around. Now, over the years, the province has faced numerous challenges, including poor service delivery, blamed on alleged corruption. Let's track the socio-economic development progress now with Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council CEO, that's also EXEC, should we say, Luvuyo Mosana, who joins us now. Speaking then, of course, at that 30th dialogue, Acting Premier Mlungisi Mvoko said EXEC must equip the province to anticipate and prepare for future shocks. How close are we to any of that, Luvuyo?
Well, thanks a lot for the opportunity, firstly, and indeed, celebrating the 30 years means we're taking stock of what has happened over the past years and what we should be aiming to achieve in the next number of other years. There have been quite a lot of progress made in respect of the planning landscape. In preparation, particular for the 7th term of administration, the province of the Eastern Cape had a very profound discussion using themes and concepts like having to rupture the system to be able to achieve the best for the province. And as the Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council, out of those discussions, 3 things were emerging as part of our assignment. Having been established back in 1995 as a socio-economic compacting council of the Eastern Cape, one of the things that we identified as part of this 7th term preparation is that we must support the province, strengthen its evidence-based decision-making capabilities. 2, we had identified that as the Consultative Council, and particularly its Secretariat, we must strengthen our capabilities of modeling so that the plans that are developed, they are appropriately modeled and they are appropriately sequenced to ensure effective implementation. Thirdly, we also appreciated that we needed to give specific focus to looking at what innovative tools that we need to be making use of as a province to ensure success in the implementation and sequencing of the implementation in the province. Of course, there's been quite great strides over the years made by the province itself and with EXEC's contribution, amongst which we can mention that we see in the 2 economic nodes of the province, that is the East London, Buffalo City, and as well as Nelson Mandela Bay, the existence of 2 very profound industrial development zones. And this council, as a social compacting council, played a very significant role in the actual conceptualization of these industrial development zones, which were then supported by DTI at a national level and legislated as SEZs or special economic zones. And essentially, we brought as this council together both labor, business, government, and other formations in the discussion away from the earlier thoughts of these SEZs as being, or industrial zones as being mere, type of your Eastern Asian export processing zones, but more to the understanding of the role that they were to play as different for the South African space, and in particular the Eastern Cape.
Yeah, look, so Luvuyo, how do we hold them accountable though? Because that's that's going to be the critical element here. We want the successes or anything that has been done in the last 30 years to make sense, though, and to continue to prove and move the province forward here. So how are you holding accountable all those stakeholders that are pledging to make those changes as well within the province?
Well, as I've mentioned, the three things that we specifically paid attention to in this term, rather, I may say that amongst those things, the tools, the innovative tools that I'm talking about, it includes a very strong support to the Office of the Premier with respect to monitoring and evaluation, which then gives us the requisite instruments to be able to detect, determine the pace, the direction of the implementation work that we are in. So if you look specifically what our Director General has actually led in the administration over this coming of this term, you would note that even the government system, which is what is called the cluster system of government, from the level of provincial sector departments down to reporting at the level of the Executive Council, there's been a total revamp in respect of how it functions, in respect of how they are going to be monitored, and in respect of how the individual sector formations get to be accountable for the targets that they are given. And on top of that, we also, as part of the three things that I've mentioned, are busy with an assignment of ensuring that the targets themselves are appropriately modeled and they are not just smart as the general term would be, but they are very concrete with very clear baselines but also with very clear resources allocation, which will ensure their success.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be ultimately very pertinent in trying to ensure that this comes right, and of course equipping the province then for those future shocks. There was also this message then, of course, put forward by the COGTA Minister, Velenkosini Hlabisa, just around being prepared for change and the need for economic stimulation in order to turn the province around. If it doesn't come from the very top, that i.e. from President, from the Finance Minister as well, and then trickles down to the provinces themselves, are we able to find other ways? Is this going to have to be those public-private partnerships that work best for the province in order to grow?
Thanks a lot. I think the record would show that the province has, just in the past 3 years, been able to convene a very successful investment conference. But certainly, we may not just say a successful investment conference, we need to be seeing the actual investment. One of the base things to ensure that economic activity is actually achieved is the infrastructure of the province. And as I've mentioned, you have had over the years, not just now, a total neglect in terms of investment in this province, which is a historical thing. If you like, you can go to colonial years and understand that logic as to what it was about. This province has been made a labor-sending area with very minimal and no investments. For example, part of that infrastructure investment that we are seeing now, which is going to unlock quite a lot of local endowments in the eastern part of the province, which has been totally underdeveloped purposefully. You are seeing now the emergence of the N2 Wild Coast Road. You may have witnessed the two popular bridges of Msikaba and Tenju. That infrastructure is going to unlock that area.
Sure.
There is already work with national government and the province on what we are calling the Eastern Seaboard Development. That work is meant to unlock the economic activity in the province, particularly on that eastern side. And of course, there continues to be further other investments on the western side as well, which is the area.
Luvuyo, unfortunately, we do have to close off the conversation there. We've just run out of time, but really appreciate it. And I hope we can actually unpack this a little bit more, and you can perhaps join us again and we can talk about it so much, because there's so many aspects, especially then in trying to revitalize particularly. the Eastern Cape. Thank you so much for your time. Luvuyo Mosana there as well. Then, of course, Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council's CEO.